after my quick introduction, you'll be hearing from Lorraine from ONS about how to access data sets within the ONS Secure Research Service, before hearing from my colleague Karen, who'll take you through some of the flagship data linkages that are available within the SRS and the details of the funding opportunities. And we'll then move on to the combined Q&A. So we're a partnership of government and academic groups that are led by my team within ESRC, working to create linked research data sets from administrative sources, then making these available to researchers through our network of trusted research environments. And those are across all 4 countries of the UK. And this slide is a very high-level overview of how we work with data owners to create new linked data sets for research. And across the partnership, our teams lead on these negotiations, always basing the creation of new data sets on an identified need for policy relevant research. And that's because we've recognised that there's value in scale here, so that if we lead on those negotiations and create the linked data sets on behalf of researchers, then more research can happen based on those linked data sets essentially. So data are then linked and de-identified before being made available to researchers, and we then commission research based on these data sets to support collaborative engagement between policy departments and researchers, reinforcing the feedback loop between those who have collaborated with us to open up access to data and the researchers commissioned to analyse it. But you don't need to be limited by whether you get funding from us to access the data sets. All of the data that is available through the ONS Secure Research Service, for example, is available on application, and we'll go through that in more detail later. So this slide is there just to give you a sense of scale of the amount of research that we're facilitating across the UK. And our partners in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have core funding to open up access to data and carry out research. And their engagement with data organisations isn't captured here, since much of this has been developing over many years. However, as part of the pilot investment in ADR UK that's been running since 2018, we've worked with a range of Westminster government departments to open up access to new data, and we're in discussions with many more. And we're also funding ever more research to make use of this data, and Karen will be talking about that later. And here's just a snapshot of the areas that we've funded data linkage projects and research to date. And you'll be hearing some of these in more detail from Karen later on. But just to add that in addition to the work we had planned to deliver back in 2018, the ADR UK programme has also enabled our partners to support the management of the COVID pandemic through our investments in both data infrastructure and people. And as if you go onto the ONS Secure Research Service data catalogue, you'll see a lot of COVID related data sets there that are available to access on application. So as we move out of the critical phase into the recovery phase of the pandemic, we expect to be playing an increasingly pivotal role as the need for insights based not just on health data, but on education, benefits, income, homelessness and crime and justice data grows. So as I mentioned at the start, we've been running as a pilot investment since 2018, and from the 1st of April this year, we officially moved into our long-term investment phase, in which we'll be taking forward an even more ambitious programme of work. And key elements of this include an even greater focus on public engagement to ensure that we maintain the social contract to use administrative data for research. And we'll also be doing more to train people in how to use the new linked data sets that we're making available, so that researchers across a wide range of disciplines can make use of these in their research. So thank you, that's everything from me, and I'll just stop sharing my screen so you can hear from Lorraine.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lorraine Ireland. I'm head of ADR UK Strategic Data Curation for the Office for National Statistics Secure Research Service. The ONS SRS is a trusted research environment that provides access to de-identified unpublished data. The ONS is accredited as a DEA 2017 processor by the UK Statistics Authority. The SRS provides a safe setting under the 5 Safes framework. This is safe people, safe projects, safe settings, safe outputs and safe data. Safe people are trained and accredited researchers are trusted to use the data appropriately. Safe projects, data are only used for valuable ethical research that delivers clear public benefit. This is approved by the Research Accreditation Panel. Safe settings, this is the trusted research environment. Safe outputs, all research outputs are checked to ensure they cannot identify any data subjects. Safe data, researchers can only use data that has been de-identified. So to become an accredited researcher, you must have either an undergraduate degree or higher. This includes a significant proportion of maths or statistics, or be able to demonstrate at least 3 years quantitative research experience. You submit how to apply, you submit an online application via the Research Accreditation Service, and this is the start of the form on the right of the screen. It will take you through each step, and you must provide evidence throughout that you've got this undergraduate degree or you've got the 3 years quantitative research experience. At the end of the application, you will be asked to sign up for a training session. This is currently virtual. You will complete an online assessment at the end of that training session. In addition to this research accreditation application, you can also submit a research project application. For an example application form and guidance, please see the UK Statistics Authority website that will show you how to complete the form. Accessing the data. There are 3 main ways of accessing data in the SRS, with a further one in progress. In normal circumstances, you can access the data in ONS safe rooms. This is at London, Titchfield or Newport. But during COVID, we've expanded the use of the service with assured organisational connectivity. This is usually office-based, but during the pandemic, we've also stretched this to home working. There are currently 70 organisations with AOC connectivity. These include government organisations and universities and safe settings set up in academics or business premises. They must comply with our security standards. We are in the process of setting up some safe pods at various university locations throughout the UK, and this is currently in progress. This slide shows you the step of how you become an assured organisational connectivity. You usually complete this or apply to SRS connectivity, ons.gov.uk, in connection with applying online with your accredited research application and project application. What you need to do is step 1 is contact the connectivity team to obtain your AOC pack. A meeting is then organised between the organisation and the SRS connectivity team. Your organisation must take any necessary steps to become compliant. Step 4, you submit your AOC compliance client form to the SRS connectivity form. The team will then review the form and get them countersigned. Your organisation will install Citrix, Workplace Client and connectivity is tested. Your organisation is now certified. The AOC has an annual review on validation. New datasets in the SRS in 2020. During the year, we inserted 19 datasets were added to the SRS, 9 of which are owned or partially owned by 7 separate government departments or organisations. Highlights include the 2011 census, where we added the 100% final unit record dataset, the Ministry of Justice datasets, including Magistrates and Crown Court standalone, and a linked dataset joining the Magistrates and Crown Court. There were 8 COVID-19 related datasets added since May. These include the monthly mortality data and monthly COVID infection survey. We also worked on 2 new linked datasets being developed, Growing Up in England and the Wage Dynamic projects. For 2021, During the first part of the year, we've added further 7 datasets that have been added to the SRS, with a further 9 predicted up to autumn 2021. Highlights include the Growing Up in England project, Wave 1, which includes children looked after, children in need, school exclusions, absences and free school meals. The Growing Up in England Wave 1 included 2011 census linked to DFE attainment data. Others in progress are the Wage Dynamics project, which is ASH linked to census. And we have 4 more data sets from the Ministry of Justice, and this includes prison data, linked prison to criminal court data. We're also adding more COVID-19 related data sets. This slide shows the focus on the health, COVID and life events data that we've added so far in 2020 and 2021. There are 10 datasets available to researchers that cover the whole theme. These include the COVID infection survey, wastewater data, NHS test and trace data, business impact of coronavirus survey, death registration data, and newly added is census mortality, hospital episodes and GP extraction service. To find what data is available, please do look on our website. The data catalogue is there on the right hand side, and this arrow shows where it is, which can be missed. It's on the right hand side, SRS data catalogues. What you need to do is look through there and check that the data you require is available on our catalogue. As when you submit your project application, you will get a drop-down list that asks you to identify what data you require to use in your project. If you find the data you require is not on the catalogue, how do you arrange the ingest of this? So, for example, you will need to complete a researcher ingest request form. This is downloaded from the ONS website, and on the previous slide where the arrow was for the catalogue, it just sits just underneath there, called the research ingest request form. Therefore, you need to consider, first of all, is this your data? Do you own the data? Is it a survey data that you collected? And you need to complete an addendum through the SRS customer support team to add this to your project request if it's already been approved at RAP, or add it in the original project application request. The data must be fully de-identified. Is the data publicly owned? Is it open license? You need to supply ONS with a link in the researcher ingest request form, but first check the terms of use and privacy notice sections of the website for the organisation you wish to request data from. You can also use the contact us section on the website. If the data is not publicly owned data, you must request permission from the data owner to use the data and evidence this to SRS customer support. An addendum can then be raised and the data added to your project. Again, the data must be fully de-identified. Some government departments have their own front door request system for accessing data. These can be found on gov.uk. An example of this is education data, where you will have to apply directly to them. At present, ONS are concentrating the resources on securing access to datasets which can be acquired once and used many times. Hence, it becomes available to all accredited researchers once in the SRS. If there is substantial and demonstrable interest in the dataset you need, then we may be able to help. So if you can contact our team at ADR Curation, ons.gov.uk to explore the various options. One of the questions we get asked many times is, can I link data within the ONS SRS? At present, it is not possible to link data in the ONS SRS as it does not hold names, addresses, dates of birth or unique identifiers, such as the NHS number. ONS may be able to link data on your behalf in our data access platform. This is a separate platform from the SRS that is accessed by ONS colleagues only. For us to link your data, the following must hold true. There is substantial public benefit to the linkage. There is interest in the linkage beyond your own project. The strength of the user needs. The final data set can be accessed by others on the ONS SRS. Support from all data owners, and the feasibility and level of complexity of the proposed linkage. Researchers wanting to make a request for a linked dataset should contact ADR Curation at ons.gov.uk. We may require you to fill out a business case so that we can see that these obligations have been fulfilled. The IDBR can be joined in the SRS by using Company's House Reference Number, CRN. This can be completed by the SRS team if you supply the company reference number. Also, if you supply the business name and address, the work needs to be carried out by a separate team within ONS, but there will be a small charge for it. But you would need to contact the IDBR team directly to discuss your requirements. The address is on the slide. In 2021, we conducted the User Experience Survey for accredited researchers, and the users identified future linking of admin data by themes. This included inequality and social inclusion, children and young people, and health and well-being. Some of these we are currently being looked at into. For example, we are scoping Understanding Society linked to HMRC data, obviously the Growing Up in England project and the Wage Dynamic project. In addition to the linked requirements that the users experience, we asked them on the skills they'd gained by using the SRS and the trusted research environment. This included providing new research knowledge, statistics and coding, to name just a few of the skills that they'd learned while working in the SRS. Finally, remember, on completion of your research, if you do publish any articles, journals as a result of your accredited research project, then there is a responsibility to pass this information on to the ONS. These publications can include journals, working papers, book chapters, any presentations, policy briefings, news articles. In future, we will be featuring the research outputs of the month in our accredited researcher newsletter. Please let us know if you'd like to volunteer and by contacting the SRS Development and Impact team on the address listed on the presentation. Thank you, everybody. I will now pass you over to my colleague Karen and stop sharing.
Great stuff. Okay, let me just share my screen then. So can I double check you can all see okay?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, perfect, great stuff. So I'm Karen Powell, Head of Research Strategy and Commissioning at the ADR UK Strategic Hub. And I want to tell you just a quick bit about ADR England and do some signposting really about potential and up and coming funding opportunities and data sets. Oh, gone too far. Yeah, so we have just launched ADR England, which goes nicely alongside ADR Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland and the partnerships we have there. ADR England effectively will be a portfolio of academic and government groups and activity that together delivers on our strategy, which I just want to outline quickly. There's also more detail on our strategy on our website. So there's 4 key planks to the ADR England strategy. The first one really is around creating sustainable research ready data resources using linked administrative data, of which we've already got some great examples of, and we'll continue to kind of find the next great flagship data and continue to increase the value of the existing data that we have. Secondly, we really want to increase admin data research that crosses public policy boundaries, that's impactful and really makes a difference. Number 3, we want to drive up the number and the skills of admin data researchers. We're not going to be talking too much about training and capacity building today, but we will do in due course, and we'd be very happy to work with you on that. And number 4 there is, in doing all of this, it's really important to us that we retain widespread acceptance of data owners and the public, as Emma mentioned. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some funding opportunities. So we have had a particular scheme that we've launched at the moment, our ADR UK Research Fellowship scheme, and I just want to outline what our ambition and goals has been for this scheme. So firstly, really, it's to get our flagship data out into the academic community as swiftly as possible, making sure we've got robust and well-described metadata and really clear pathways to access as well. And we're keen that we're levelling the playing field. This isn't just about giving access to those that have already got access, but really encouraging access from all career levels. Number two is about continuing to build the trust of data owners. So we work really closely with data owners as they agree to link and share their data and make it available for research, that they're very much involved as we shape and develop these funding opportunities. Thirdly, really, is to design and oversee a single timetable that navigates the researcher's journey through the funding approval and the data owner and other data access approvals, streamlining that where we can and really supporting researchers every step of the way. And fourthly, we want to create opportunities that are going to increase the likelihood that the research is going to have impact, and we do this in a number of ways. So we work with stakeholders before we launch the call to shape some research interests, so we know at the outset that there's a collection of research questions that we definitely have organisations interested in receiving the insights from. And the opportunities aren't limited to those, but it makes a good start. We also provide a community panel for researchers to engage with, so you can be sure that you've got the route in to talk to those that are actually the citizens that actually feature within the data sets as well. We also run stakeholder events, so you've got the opportunity to talk at different stages of the fellowship as your work progresses and as you begin to interpret findings. And we also require and support researchers with policy-facing outputs as well. And number 5 there is around providing a feedback loop for researchers, or from the researchers, should I say, to the quality of the data, so that as the data is used, we can begin to learn from that and continue to develop the data as long-term research resources for future users. So we do have a series of research fellowships, and I'll talk a bit more about those, promoting different data sets, and researchers would become kind of part of ADR England and benefit as well from the support and networking and engagement opportunities that would be organised by ADR UK. But just to say, when we do launch any events, we will put on more events, applicant webinars, for example, to detail kind of further information. Okay, so this is a slide really about kind of funding opportunities. I just wanted to mention 2 that are closed. The links are included there, so you can go back and have a look when these slides are shared, but we've launched 2 ADR UK Research Fellowship calls already. The first one was for use of the magistrates and Crown Court data linked together, and this was the first data that's come out of our MOJ Data First programme, linking data from across the justice system. The second one there was a research fellowship using the MOJ DFE data share, so this is linking the Police National Computer and the National Pupil Database. It's worth just saying that this is a linkage that's very much been created out of the impetus of MOJ and DFE and other interested government departments. So it isn't on the ONS SRS catalogue, and it isn't an ADR supported data set, so applications can be made directly to MOJ and DFE. This one isn't, the legal mechanism isn't the Digital Economy Act, so it's not through RAP, but the data owners are keen to make this available for research, and you can see more details there at our link. And then secondly, we've got 2 funding opportunities that are currently open. One slightly different approach to the research fellowships is the data science fellows that we're co-funding with ESRC at the moment. So this would be for 4 research fellows to work on secondment at the number 10 data science team to co-design projects using data from the ONS Secure Research Service that are really addressing priority policy needs. So that one is currently live. The second one, which is live at the moment, is slightly different from research. This is more around the creation of novel and innovative data sets. So it's our Research Ready Data and Access Fund. So this is expressions of interest at the moment. But like I say, it's really around kind of encouraging the next flagship data linkages, if you like, which could be extensions of existing linkages or kind of brand new linkages, really kind of focusing on those that are going to be crossing policy boundaries and enabling research that can inform policy and practice. And expressions of interest might come from teams led by UK academia or national government, might include other partners, but really important here that data owners are absolutely kind of on board. Number 3 there, planned funding opportunities. So we do very much intend to continue to offer further research fellowships, highlighting different data coming out. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the data in a minute, but there's just 4 data sets mentioned there. Ofqual, DFE UCAS data, which I'll talk about, eChild, which I'll talk about, Growing Up in England, which Lorraine talked about, which is census linked to education data. And we do expect there to be a flow of data coming out of the MOJ Data First programme, which Lorraine touched on as well. And number 4 there, it's worth saying that neither are we or can we be the sole funder of linked administrative data research. And so through our strategy, we also want to play a role as a convener and an enabler and look to work with other funders or organisations to shape and signpost researchers to other opportunities that can unlock the potential of this growing resource of data in the ONS Secure Research Service. So for now, I've just highlighted the ESRC secondary data analysis, and all these data that Lorraine and I am talking about would be relevant, and this is a call that is open all the time. And number 5 there, just to say, with other funders, we will be putting together a survey which we'd like to share with you after this event, thinking about how else ADR UK can support administrative data research. Obviously, we're funding some research, we're funding some data, but what else can we do that might support the use of administrative data research for public benefit? Okay, and I'm just going to finish off then talking about some of our flagship data. So the eChild data, so that's education and child health insights using linked data. So the eChild database involves linking routinely collected education and social care data. So education outcomes, personal characteristics like special educational needs or disability, free school meals, children in care. So linking national pupil database with hospital episode statistics, so like A&E, outpatient admissions, outpatient hospital admissions. So all in all, this encompasses around 14 million children's records from over 20 years, linking from birth in an NHS hospital all the way through school and out the other side up to hospital contact in early adulthood. And the data set can be used to better understand how education affects health and how health affects education. And in terms of our homelessness data, So with in collaboration with the ONS and MHCLG, this project aims to create a linked data set of information about homelessness in England that's going to improve our understanding of its causes and its impacts. And so it allows decision makers to develop more effective policies to reduce homelessness and improve the lives of people across the country. So there's three elements. Firstly, linking homelessness case level information collection, or HCLIC, data from across local authorities, then matching in HCLIC data to the rough sleeping evaluation questionnaire, and then in time matching HCLIC data to data more broadly from other government departments and potentially health agencies. Okay, so our wage and employment dynamics, where UE are the lead here. This project is really expected to increase understanding of how people's wages progress through their career, thinking about characteristics like gender and ethnicity. So this data, which is being linked, which is basically the annual survey of hours and earnings, which measures employee earnings, linked to the International Departmental Business Register, which is a comprehensive list of UK businesses, linking that to the 2011 census, which obviously is that detailed snapshot of the population and its characteristics. So we really hope this linkage it is going to have the potential to transform our understanding of wage and employment issues from labour market entry, job mobility and career progression, retirement decisions, the gender pay gap. And there's also work now to take that linkage and also add in HMRC data. Okay, and I also just want to mention a new data linkage, Ofqual, linked with DFE data, UCAS data, possibly Ofsted data. So this is very much driven by these organisations with a real clear policy need. So this is about linking together the Ofqual data, so that's summer awarding data, including the calculated grades and final grades. So really interesting in terms of what was happening during the pandemic with exam results last year. UCAS data, which would include teachers' predicted grades and also advertised grades on university websites. And then again, the DFE's national pupil database. And potentially Ofsted data as well. So like I said, this is very much driven by Ofqual, DFE, UCAS and Ofsted. And they have approached us to, the data's being shared anyway in the ONS Secure Research Service, and they've approached ADR UK if we would like to run a research fellowship on this data, which is great. Yep, and we're going to wrap up now, and I'm going to pass over to my colleague Lizzie, who's going to administer the Q&A.
Great, thank you, Karen. So yeah, we've had a few questions in already in the chat box. Any questions that anybody has, please just continue to drop those into the chat box and we'll pick up as many as we can. So there was a question around, could you explain a bit more what counts as a significant amount of maths or statistics in an undergraduate degree? So Nick O'Donnell from ONS shared a link with some further information, but I think we can also discuss that a bit now. So who would like to pick that up first? Emma?
I can go first on that, yeah. So firstly, this requirement for having some maths or statistics training is essentially around proving that you've had some training in how to carry out data analysis, and this is as a commitment to the data owners that will be making the data available to people who know how to analyse it. So good things will come out of it essentially, but you should also appreciate that, you know, ADR UK is funded by the Economic and Social Research Council. We absolutely have, you know, a big interest in social scientists being able to make use of this data. And so it's essentially around, you know, if you've got a sociology degree, a psychology degree, anything like that, as long as you can evidence that you've got quantitative data analysis methods knowledge gained as part of your degree, or, you know, even after your degree, then, you know, that's absolutely, you know, sufficient as evidence of this. And even if you haven't got one of those degrees, as Nick mentioned in the chat, you can go in and this is really for, you know, people like master's students in particular, or PhD students where the undergraduate degree might not have had that kind of training in it. You can go in, I can't remember the term he used, but essentially yeah, you can apply for provisional accredited researcher status alongside somebody more senior in your department, or another university even that you're collaborating with, who does have that training, so that they can oversee the work that you're doing. So it's not about blocking access, it's just about making sure that we're keeping that commitment with to the data owners, that you know, people know how to analyze the data. So hopefully that answers your question, but do put another question in there if I haven't answered it.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, there's a question here. Can you link in the SRS data at the school level, for example, via a URN identifier for a school, such as the school someone attends in the NPD? So Lorraine, I don't know if you want to.
It depends. If that's publicly identifiable URN, then you can't use it. No.
At the moment, I think all the Department for Education data that's available through the Secure Research Service is not linkable. Yeah. But if you had a particular need to link data for a particular research project, then I suggest you get in touch with Department for Education about that, because I do understand that eventually the aim is to have linkable DFE data available within the SRS, with the linkage happening in the way that Lorraine explained, so it happening in the platform that's behind the Secure Research Service. But at the moment, I don't believe ONS have access to that linkable data.
No, DFE is slightly different in that they do the linking themselves generally, and then they supply that data to ONS. So any application for linking DFE data does have to be applied for on the gov.uk website at DFE, and they will assess your application and review the linkage there.
That's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So another question. Do previous linkages via data access platform become incorporated into the ONS SRS, or is there a list of which linkages have previously been performed?
Well, in the SRS data catalogue, we usually state whether it's linked data. So that can, as I said, it can either be linked at DFE or another organisation, or ONS link it. So it wouldn't necessarily specifically say linked by ONS. You probably could tell by the governance. If it's DFE coming under the Education Act, then you would be aware it's been conducted at that level. But like the Ofqual and Ofsted data that we're anticipating, they'll also be doing the linkage, and then they de-identify the data and send it across to the ONS.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Is it worth adding on that one, the ONS data catalogue, it's a little bit hard to find, and we are in discussions with ONS about making that available. But if you go to the ONS Secure Research Service page, If you scroll down and look on the box on the right hand side of the page, at the very bottom of that box, there is a link to the ONS Secure Research Service data catalogue. You can download that. It's got all of the details of all of the linked data sets and standalone data sets that are available in the SRS. And if you can't see something that you're looking for, if you contact either the Secure Research Service team or the ADR UK team in ESRC, we can tell you whether we're in discussions about data linkage of anything that you might be interested in. And we can, you know, that kind of information that we can't sort of publish yet, but we can discuss what's in the pipeline, if you like.
Yeah, because like Emma just referred to, some of the linkage we're undergoing at the moment is not publicly available on the SRS website. We're almost doing a proof of concept and testing it and then seeing if it works, and then it will become available.
Thank you. And there have been a few questions about timelines for up and coming data. So will there be advance notice of the data sets that are going to be promoted and when they are scheduled for? So I don't know if you wanted to talk a bit more about that, Emma.
I'll have a quick go and then Karen can follow up probably. So the best way about hearing about upcoming data sets, new data sets, is to sign up for our newsletter, and you can do that through going to our website adruk.org, and it's on the front page. And to be honest, you know, I would love it if data owners worked with us in really methodical, orderly, timely ways. That's just not how it happens. So if I give you the example of the off-pole DFE UCAS data linkage, that has been turned around with incredible speed. And so the reason why that hasn't been sort of flagged to people yet is just because of the sheer speed it's all happened. But we are making that sort of highlighting that now, and there will be a call going up about that, as Karen mentioned. Other data sets we've been working with data owners for many years on, and we still don't have a sort of timeline. So it's just really tricky, but we do make that information available as soon as we can and give prior notice where we can. And as I say, if you sign up for the newsletter, then that's the best way of hearing about it as soon as we can make that information available. But Karen, I don't know whether there's anything else you want to add there.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. It would be ideal if we can sort of publish a schedule of when data's coming out, but you know, there's so many factors involved. But with regards to data where we're launching a research fellowship call, we will work to launch that research fellowship call as soon as we can, once the data has been made available. We're really keen that we are notifying the research community as soon as these data are available, and likewise working with other funders alongside, so they're ready to kind of think about how they also might want to promote these data as well. So I agree with Emma that the best thing to do is really to sign up for our alerts, and we really will work to try and let you know about the data and our funding opportunities as soon as we can. Sometimes perhaps with if we know the data is coming, but and there's a funding opportunity that isn't quite ready, then you know we will still launch the data, or we might sometimes do pre-call announcements, for example. So it is our objective to get data out to you quickly.
Great, thank you. So there's a question here. Administrative data may be directly available from data controllers, for example, DFE, HESA and UKDS. So if we are looking for linked data sets, are we expected to contact data controllers first or contact ADR? Also, how can I check which data sets have already been linked?
I would suggest you email the ADR curation team and we can look into that for you. So I can check to see whether we're already in the process of linking that data, or who you would need to contact at that external organisation, or we may contact them on your behalf if there's a significant public need.
Great, thank you.
And I think it's perhaps also worth referencing our Research Ready Data and Access Fund here. So I think if you've given some examples there of DFE, HESA and UKDS, I mean, there's a lot of data out there. If you already have mature and established links with data owners and a clear and established need, then it could be the Research Ready Data Core is appropriate for you. I think if you're coming at this fresh and you know you're interested in a particular data linkage, but you haven't got any pre-established relationships with the data owners, then I think the best port of call is come directly through to ADR UK, as Lorraine had suggested. And it should be that the ONS data catalogue is highlighting where they're already linked data.
Thanks. So there's a question here around a report that was published by the Information Commissioner's Office about the Department for Education, a compulsory audit. So just asking whether anything has changed in practice about how DFE data is made available for research based on that. I don't know if you're aware of that report. So yeah,
I can comment on that, certainly from an ADR UK perspective. So the DFE data that we make available to researchers working in collaboration with DFE is only through the ONS Secure Research Service. So that is obviously it's an accredited system under the Digital Economy Act that meets the 5 SAFE principles. So with the way that the ONS Secure Research Service works, no data ever leaves ONS. Essentially, it's portal access, and it's only disclosure controlled results of statistical tests, essentially, that leave the system. So in that sense, everything that we're doing in collaboration with DFE is absolutely honouring the sort of the sentiment of that ICO report. So you know, even potentially identifiable data is not sent out directly to researchers.
Great, thank you. There's a question about when the data from the Ofqual Ofsted DFE UCAS linkage is likely to be available. I think we've talked a bit about data availability. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on to what's already been discussed on that.
Karen, is that for you?
Yeah, I think this will be one of the next data sets coming out. So yeah, watch this space, and we'll look forward to sharing more detail.
And just another one about maths and stats skills requirements. Just a follow-up question was if you had these skills at masters but not undergrad, but I think we covered off that as long as you can demonstrate that you have them. Yeah. And another question about the Ofsted DFE UCAS linkage. When will pupils and students be told about that? So I guess just a question around how data subjects are informed about the use of the data for research. Nick O'Donnell, do you have your hand up there?
Yeah, sure. It was just to add, I think Emma's covered nearly everything I would have said anyway in terms of the accreditation. I mean, the applications, when they come in, we look at the full details of what people have provided in terms of qualifications, research experience, an example where we ask for an example of previous use of data, just to form that view really of the skills and the experience that researcher has. So we do try and take a very rounded view of everything that's recorded by the researcher, and in terms of getting a comprehensive picture. And I think just to add to I think again Emma's covered everything I would have said on the provisional accreditation. They're supervised. They have to be supervised by an accredited researcher who also needs to be on the same project any provisional accredited researcher is on. And we get quite a number of undergraduates, for instance, who go through a provisional accreditation with perhaps their professor or somebody similar in their department. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Just on the question there about the Ofqual Ofsted data and when pupils and students will be told about it. So I mean, I think that's a really important question, and I think we can certainly talk with the project team about their plans. When we launch our research fellowship, we will have. We're also establishing a children and young people's representative forum to make sure that the voice of young people are heard as research develops, giving researchers the opportunity to share their research with this group and incorporate their views and perspectives in the way the research is conducted and interpreted. And potentially, I think this group might have scope to look at research projects as they come through as well. Emma, I don't know whether you wanted to add anything more broadly about the work ADR UK does around public engagement more broadly.
I mean, all the data protection impact assessment work is done before data are made available, you know, and it's data owners that understand their responsibilities around doing that. So, yeah, broadly, we've got a very big programme of public engagement work just starting, but, you know, we are very mindful of you know, making data access available in lawful ways, and all of the partners are signed up to do that, and we'd support all data owners in making sure that that is, you know, how they operate as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, ONS put a privacy notice on our website what we're using the survey data for, and in discussions with data owners we recommend that they would do that.
Great, thank you. So next question, in relation to eChild, this could also be available together with fellowship funding, but also independently. Is that the case? And in general, a bit of confusion around the funding schemes. For example, the Secondary Data Analysis Initiative, could that cover a project using those linked data, so the eChild data?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I'll have another go at that one. So eChild isn't available yet, but as soon as it is available, what will be published is the user guide and the metadata, so you get a sense of what's included, and a clear way to access that data. Now, you can access that data without research funding from ADR UK. It might be you've got your own research funding, for example, but if you are looking for a research funding opportunity, it's likely that the research fellowship opportunity will be the very first way that you are able to apply for research funding, and we will do it in a way that will really kind of hold your hand through and try and streamline the processes where you have to apply for funding and for data access and data owner approvals, etc. But more broadly, I guess why I mentioned the Secondary Data Analysis Initiative is you could apply, once the data is available, you could apply through that one as well. And we will seek to work with other funders. So everything we learn in running our research fellowships around data access and streamlining routes can also benefit other funding schemes as well. If that's still not clear, or if you've got any other questions, just definitely get in touch. Very happy to talk in more detail about it.
Thanks, Karen. So next question, is it possible for individuals to use safe rooms hosted by other organisations if they do not belong to said organisation?
Do you want to take that one? I mean, obviously, the safe rooms at ONS Titchfield and Newport, you don't necessarily have to belong to those organisations.
No, that's right, Lorraine. So yes, you say we have the existing safe rooms in the ONS offices, as well as those that are hosted at NISRA in Northern Ireland and National Records Scotland in Glasgow. It is also possible for other organisations to apply to set up a secure room that then can also be used by other accredited researchers from other organisations. So once that that secure room, that safe room is approved for that organisation, then, as I say, other ARs can use that safe room that's outside of their organisation. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. So somebody has asked, are the resources available via the ONS SRS open and accessible to organisations or universities based outside of the UK?
No, currently this is for UK accredited researchers only.
Okay, thank you. And another question about quantitative skills. Is quantitative training from a non-social science also okay? For example, biological sciences, chemistry, and so on.
Yeah, I've applied to that one. I've got a zoology degree and I was head of health analysis in ONS for 10 years, so I'd say yes, absolutely fine.
No, I agree with that, Emma.
And a question about linking with the MPD. Is there the possibility of linking school workforce data with MPD?
Again, you would have to apply through the DFE website and they would assess it if that was possible.
Another one around eChild. So the eChild database is de-identified, but is there an encrypted pupil identifier that allows researchers to follow pupils over time?
So I can't remember the correct terminology, but it's not an encrypted pupil identifier, but you can follow pupils over time and cohorts over time, and it's been designed so that to allow that. But it's not being described as an encrypted pupil identifier. It's an entirely separate sort of linkage methodology. But yes, you can do that type of work with that data set.
Great, thank you. We've got 1 minute left, so perhaps time for one more question. Sorry that we haven't got to all of them, but we can keep a note and follow up with any that we don't get to. Next one was, if there are data sets we'd like to see linked, what are the relative merits of suggesting this through the SRS data access platform versus the ADR UK Research Ready data access funding call?
I think this is a really great question, actually, and so as we launch the Research Ready Data Access Funding Call, we are working really closely with ONS as a funded ADR UK partner, and the ONS SRS is funded by ADR UK. So it could be expressions of interest that come in through our Research Ready Data Access Fund will help determine how ONS can also prioritise which data to link. So almost by coming in through the Research Ready Data Access expressions of interest route, you will be considered kind of on both parts, and we're working out what that looks like in practice. So definitely get in touch, but I think putting in an expression of interest would allow us to work out actually what the best route is. Is it funding you need, or is it kind of support from ONS, which is already funded by ADR UK?
And just to sort of expand on that slightly, I'd say the balance is whether it's of project specific interest, the linkage, and ONS do link data for project specific purposes for individual project applications, or is it of wider national interest? Many more researchers going to be interested in accessing that linked data, and an example of that type of linkage would be HMRC data to annual survey of hours of earnings, which is one of the linkages that we are funding, because we can see the benefits to that of many more researchers being made, making that available. So if it's that type of linkage, then yes, we'd be very interested in assessing that and whether we could fund that.
Great, thank you, Emma. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's now 12:30, so we won't be able to pick up any more questions, but we'll follow up on those afterwards. So yeah, thank you very much for everybody for attending, and keep the conversation going. You can always get in touch with us via email, and hopefully we'll be able to hold future events like this in the future as well. So thank you very much.